Good afternoon,
Shubhasree?
everyone. Yeah,
Hmm.
uh, good afternoon. So I'm here to introduce Dr. Deepa. She is a gold medalist from PSG College of Technology, Bachelor of Engineering Triple E, with a master's degree in business administration, has 8 years of industry experience in various positions like vice president, human resources, general manager, and management representative for ISO. As the management representative for ISO, Dr. Deepa was instrumental in creating the ISO process from scratch for the organization, certifying the organization, and maintaining the ISO certification. She secured her PhD in emotional intelligence from Anna University, Chennai. She completed an AICTE funded research project titled Diagnosing and Enhancing the Emotional Intelligence of IT Professionals for Service Excellence and a UGC funded research work titled Designing an Emotional Intelligence Test for Medical Students and Developing an Emotional Intelligence Training Program for graduating medical students. She secured the Women Achiever of the Year award from the PSG and Sons Charitable Trust in March 2018 for meritorious service to the institution. As a participant, as a recipient of Best Paper and Best Case awards, Deepa has presented and published papers in various national and international conferences and journals. Dr. Deepa secured the AIMS International Outstanding Management Teacher Award from AIMS International in January 2020. She secured the Bronze Award at the Indian Management Conclave 2018 for her experiential learning initiative, teaching cross-culture communication through theatre play. She secured the first prize in the Best Practices in Student Engagement contest organized by CII in the year 2017. She also secured the gold medal for innovation in teaching from the Association of Indian Management Schools in August 2015 for using theatre play to teach intercultural communication. She has designed, developed, and delivered a course, Emotional Intelligence for Managers, for the MBA students and also conducts training programs on emotional intelligence for corporate executives. Dr. Deepa holds an international graduate diploma in counseling skills and is certified to participate as a counselor. She is also a certified NLP practitioner. She is currently working on technological gap analysis of industrial clusters consultancy projects. She is the coordinator of this consultancy project of PSG STEP. She is presently writing a book on emotional intelligence. Welcome, ma'am. So the entire profile will be shared through the WhatsApp group. So I would request ma'am to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Subhasree. There is a small correction. I have actually published that book. It is called Unearthing Your Emotional Intelligence. The book is now available on the Amazon platform. Thank you, Subhasree. So, good afternoon. At the outset, I'd like to thank Professor Thamari Chelvan for this wonderful opportunity to be with you virtually in this session. I also thank Mr. Jagan for the coordination. So without much ado, I would like to go into the topic. It's amazing to be with all of you. You might be walking in with different backgrounds, maybe different specializations. So I would like to start with a small question. Have you heard of this term, emotional intelligence? If you have heard of this term, what according to you is emotional intelligence? Can I have a few responses?
Yes, ma'am, I've heard about it.
Yes.
And it talks actually about not only understanding your own emotions, but behaving with others and being more self-aware.
Being more self-aware. Was it Deepti speaking? Dr. Deepti?
Dr. Nusrat Khan, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other perspective that you have on emotional intelligence?
I think emotional intelligence is, ma'am, when we can manage the emotions and when we can express the emotion and relationships with oneself and with others also.
Okay,
So
thank
I
you.
think that's the.
Thank you, Renu Yadav. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, ma'am. Pooja this side.
Yes.
I believe it is the emotional study which is somewhere related to our behavioral aspect in our day-to-day life, understanding it and the entire study of the same.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Pooja. Yeah. So I understand a few of you have some perspective about emotional intelligence. As the title says, it's only a curtain raiser. It's a sea over there. So I'm going to just give you the tip of the iceberg today. It's only the tip of the iceberg. So before going into the session, I would like to ask you, how are you feeling as I'm speaking to you? How are you feeling? Can I have some feeling words from you?
Ma'am, comfortable.
Comfortable, okay.
Happy.
Happy, okay.
Excited for the learning.
Excited for the learning, Priya, okay.
Same here, ma'am, because I like this field of research, what you have done and the kind of contribution that you have done.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Nusrat Khan. Yeah. So excited, learning new things. Yes, Priya. Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Deepa. It was nice listening to you regarding your emotional intelligence. Today, as you said, what else we can learn? So I think excited will be the word, and when happiness regarded with your emotional intelligence, if you can share with some models and all, that will be all good.
Okay. So excited,
Eager.
eager to learn. Okay. Any other feeling words? Excited, eager, comfortable. Comfortable, I would say, would be kind of physical. So some feeling words. I'm not asking about the physical feeling, but psychological feeling. Any other feeling words? Can I have a few? I know it is post lunch, but it would be great if I could hear some voices.
Maybe more satisfactory.
Dr. Satyendra Kumar, you're feeling satisfactory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not exactly now, but maybe sad, unhappy.
Sad and happy. Okay, it's a combination. Okay.
I'm delighted.
Delighted. Good. Okay. So, another question. How many of you, emotions like sad, sorrow, happy? Okay, I see in the chat window also. How many of you gave me your real feelings? So when I see the word sad combination, sad, sorrow, maybe you're confused, kind of, you're not expressing the real feeling. So how many of you came out with your real feelings? How many of you masked your real feelings and gave me a different feeling? Yeah, fear. Mohana Sundar Raju, fear. I see another feeling there in the chat box. How
And
many
disappointment.
Disappointment. Okay, is that your real feeling, Rohini?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Privileged? Okay. Anyone else? So so do we always show our real feelings? I'm going to my presentation now. So do we always May I please request the participants to mute yourself, please? Yeah. So how many of you showed me or shared the real feelings with me was my question. But then
If it is a happy moment, we can share with everyone. But if it is the same thing, if it is happening in a sad way, we are not in a position to express those feelings.
Okay.
Happiness only we used to share with the people.
So happiness only we used to share, but when it is a sad feeling or some feeling which which you're not comfortable sharing with others, then probably you would be like this. Am I right? Are you guys seeing my screen? My PPT?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So sometimes do we agree that we are like this, wearing a mask or masking our feelings? Do we agree on this?
We do. When we feel insecure about sharing our feelings, then we just try to hide it. We don't feel comfortable enough in our comfort zone to share the same.
Okay, is it okay to wear a mask always, or should we do this also?
Ma'am, it depends upon the situation that we are dealing with, because if you're dealing as in terms of maturity with somebody, and you want to control your own feelings and you want to explain that. Say, for example, you're a boss and you want to even if you're angry, but if your purpose is to resolve that issue and make sure that the person grows, you control your own emotions and say some positive things so that the person grows. So that is what I feel is EI.
Thank you, Nusrat Khan. Yes. So that is part of EI, as she rightly said, knowing when to mask your feelings and knowing when to show your real feelings. Here, let me be very clear. Masking the feeling never means suppressing the feeling. We are only moderating the manifestation of your emotions, right? So this knowledge about when to mask and when not to mask, to what extent should I moderate the manifestation of my emotions, all these put together is the skill called emotional intelligence. Now, I want all of you to just shut all the thoughts in your mind and focus on your favorite teacher. It could be from your kindergarten, it could be from your school, from your UG, your PG, it could be your project guide or your PhD guide. So I want all of you to just close your eyes and bring your favorite teacher in front of your eyes or mind or whatever, and then let me know why that person was your favorite teacher. You can please use the chat window now. Why was that? You need not give me the names of your favorite teacher, but then you would certainly tell me why that person was your favorite teacher. Can I have a few responses in the chat window, please? What were the qualities? Okay, personal care, the first one. Pat comes the reply from Dr. Rajkumar. Personal care, humble, very expressive, okay, motivation, inspired with the content delivery, positive attitude, okay, empathetic. They could understand my perspective exactly as they were empathetic, approachable. Book contents, approachable, dealt problems with human touch, very inspirational, okay, storyteller, even when delivering the book content. Any other comment or characteristics? Encouraging. I look for a couple of responses. Okay. Engaging, encouraging, inspirational, kind, approachable, empathetic. These are all the qualities that you give out as characteristics manifested by that or possessed by that person. And because of these characteristics, that person is still your favorite teacher. If you see, none of you mentioned about the subject knowledge of the teacher. You might be a professor in chemistry, a well-renowned professor in chemistry. I'm picking chemistry just as an example. You could be a well-renowned subject expert, but then what makes someone a favorite teacher, what makes you connect with the students are all these whole gamut of characteristics which could well be brought under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. That's why this is very, very important. Pooja rightly said, emotional connect. Unless you have this emotional connect with your students, you cannot establish a rapport with them. Unless you establish a rapport with them, you will not be able to retain them. You will not be able to impress them or influence them or deliver your knowledge effectively. So all of you gave me the characteristics of your favorite teachers, and all of them can be brought into the umbrella of, very well into the umbrella of emotional intelligence, right? Now I'm going to share a short video to you Then let's talk about the video. The video says it is Sundar Pichai, but then a correction. It is not Sundar Pichai. It is someone else. But then the matter is not about Sundar Pichai. The matter is about a student meeting his teacher after a long time. So I would like to watch you. I want you to watch this video. And then before the video, I would like to establish this fact that the teacher-student bonding is a continuum. It doesn't stop the moment they graduate. It doesn't stop. It is a continuum. And how does it become a continuum? When can you sustain this continuum is that in your classrooms, when you manifest your emotional intelligence characteristics, when you display all those gamut of characteristics that you had given in the chat window, which made someone your favorite teacher. Unless you demonstrate these characteristics in your classrooms, you cannot create a teacher-student bonding, which is a continuum. So with this stress, I would like to share this video of a favorite teacher. A student is meeting his teacher after a long time. I would play for a while and would stop to check if the audio and video are okay. Are you able to hear both the audio and the video? Can I have a response?
No audio, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Okay. 1 second. I'm not sure. When we tested, it was playing. May I request Mr. Jagan, if you could play the video? I'll try one more time. Is the audio okay now?
No, ma'am, it's not hearing. I think maybe there will be some setting issues. Ma'am,
Yeah.
when we checked, it was working actually.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could give me, then I could share it to the people in WhatsApp group. That can be done, ma'am. But even if you just share the video, means we can just share it in WhatsApp group, ma'am. That would be.
I had done it earlier, but then don't
Okay,
bother. Don't bother, Jagan. I can manage this. No worries.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, one small request. Are you using a Bluetooth?
No, sir. No, I'm not.
Okay, so you have included system audio for this also.
Yes, sir.
Whether-
Yes,
okay,
sir. I'm using the computer audio, system audio.
fine.
That's okay, sir. I can manage without this video. No worries. All right. So here, I will describe what you will be seeing in this video. A person who is abroad is visiting his teacher in India. That teacher is very old, but then this person, the student who is visiting the teacher, was a slow learner or a kind of a slow learner in the class. But then the teacher always encouraged him, made him understand, and the teacher paid personal attention to all the students who need her care. So this made the student return to his teacher after so many years. And this touching video will show how, as a teacher, with your small actions, you can change the lives of many of your students. This has happened in my life as a teacher also. I have touched many students' life in whatever possible ways, and they still come back to me. They talk to me, they call me and say, "Ma'am, I've done that, I've done this." So I wish to establish this fact that using emotional intelligence, or by manifesting emotional intelligence in your classrooms, you can change the lives of many of your students in different manners. That is why this skill is very, very important. As a student also, you might have encountered several emotions in your student life. as a teacher also, you might have encountered several emotional challenges. So it is evident that teaching involves a lot of social interactions in which teachers should often regulate their emotions, not only their own emotions, but also others. And you should also be able to manage the emotions of the different stakeholders of the education system. And in your classrooms and off your classrooms, you consciously and unconsciously display emotions. Not all the time do we consciously display. Sometimes we unconsciously also display emotions that significantly enhance or inhibit student learning. So emotions and teaching go hand in hand, and that's why this skill is very, very important for teachers. I will give all of you a few seconds to read this paragraph. I'm hoping that you're able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So Haim Jinot says that he has come to a frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess a tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de escalated, and a child humanized or dehumanized. Powerful words these are. So, as a teacher, you have the tremendous power to alter the child's life either this way or that way. So we are bearing this tremendous power on our shoulders. That's why we have to be cautious and conscious about how and when we display emotions in our classrooms, right? So Jinot is a school teacher, was a school teacher. He was a child psychologist and a psychotherapist. He was also a parent educator, right? So with this, the outcomes, these are all from many research studies that have shown that emotionally intelligent teachers display patience, they have confidence, they can manage themselves well, they have excellent communication skills, they will be able to create and sustain successful relationships, and they will be able to create a suitable climate for learning. These are this is only an indicative list, not an exhaustive list. So these are the outcomes of emotional intelligence in the teaching profession. So with this, I think I have set the context for this session, and based on this context, I have two objectives for this session. One is to introduce this concept to you. Why should I introduce? All of you have already been introduced to this concept. Why should I introduce? Because there are many conceptualizations of emotional intelligence. It was found by Mayer and Salovey in 1990, but then it was Daniel Goleman who popularized this concept. So there are a lot of differences in the way Mayer and Salovey conceptualized EI and in the way Daniel Goleman propagated EI. Not only these two schools of thoughts, there are several schools of thoughts. So I wanted to clarify based on science, based on the process of emotion generation, that this is the emotional intelligence that I'm talking about. And I will also present, as I said, it's an ocean. I'm only going to present a tip of the iceberg view of the implications of acquiring emotional intelligence, right? So these are my two objectives. Again, a small introspection to introduce emotional intelligence. I want you to respond to these questions. What do you think are emotions? How are they generated? And where are they generated? Can I have a few responses? Just to see that you're with me. Feelings, okay? Emotions are feelings, okay? Kavya, Dr. Kavya, okay. Feelings generated with different situations, okay. The manifestation of our inner statistics. Oh, okay. Pooja, inner statistics, right. Anyone else? Where are they generated? Can I have a few responses? Biological state, Dr. Ashu Mittal. Neurophysiological stage, expressions. Dr. Rajkumar says they are expressions, they are reactions. Okay. Where are they generated? Okay, psychology. Mr. Muruganandam says situations. In which part of our body are they generated? Response system. Okay. In brain. Okay, brain. Context specific reactions, right? Renu Yadav. Neural networks, nervous system. Okay. Mind. Rogini says they are generated in the mind from glands. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Right. So let's go into all of these questions. We might not be talking in detail about the various parts, neurons, neural networks, etc. It's not going to be a neuro-based session, but then we will touch upon the overall process of emotion generation, right? Adrenal gland, okay, hormones, adrenal glands, nervous system, right, heart. Okay, so there are so many perspectives about emotions. All right. So now, to understand the process of emotion generation, I will give a small situation. You're all, I want all of you to assume, imagine that you're taking a walk in this park, right? The park is green, there is no one around, you're enjoying, your temperament is serene, you're feeling good, cool, refreshing, and all that. You're happy, right? Imagine that all of you are in this state of mind. All of you are taking a walk and you're in this state of mind. And then this happens. You can see so many trees in the picture. From behind one of those trees comes a gunman, a masked man with his gun pointed towards you. You are at the point blank range of this gun. If he pulls his trigger, you would be history. I know it's a difficult situation to imagine post lunch, but then please imagine this situation. Imagine that you are in this situation, and please let me know only one question, answer for one question. How would you be feeling? What would be your feeling? A moment before you were all relaxed, enjoying. Okay, scared is the first feeling that is coming from Dr. Satyendra. Feeling like the end, okay? Some more, terrified, scared, and surprised too, yes, okay? Why me? Why is this happening to me? Skip a heartbeat, okay? What other feelings you might have? Shocked, okay? All right. So if you see, I will read out the different feeling words that have come up in the chat box: shocked, terrified, scared, skipping a heartbeat. What would you do? If I may ask you. Yeah, it would be a new experience in itself, Pooja. Yes, of course. But then what would you be doing? Those who are shocked, what would you do? Those who are scared, what would you do? Flight, okay? You will try to run, will think of defense, run for life, pepper spray. Dr. Sharma, okay? Run away. Scream, beg for mercy. All right? Hide. All right, there are so many trees you can hide. Fight or flight. Dr. Rani touches upon the fight or flight response. Resist, look into the eye and shout and run. Nasrat Khan, okay. Anything else? Right. Resist, okay. Now, the same event was given to all of you. I wanted all of you to imagine yourself in this situation. You gave me a set of different feelings, okay? But then the feelings were also different and the doings were also different. Why? Why did you give me all these different feelings and all these different behavioral responses for the same situation? Why would somebody resist? Why did somebody say that they would resist? Why did somebody say they would run? Why did somebody say they would try for a defense? Why did somebody say, I will beg for mercy? Why is this difference for the same event? Can we throw some light on that? Why? We are all different. Exactly. Why, Pooja? Why are we different? Different mindsets. Exactly. Why do we have different mindsets? Dr. Sharma, why do we have different mindsets? Okay. Why does someone become strong? Why does someone become weak? Why does someone become a pessimist? Why does someone become an optimist? Are brought up and experience and responses. We had different past experiences. There you are. Yes. Okay. All right. Human bodies engineered in diversity. All right. So each one of us have different childhood experiences. Each one of us have seen life in different ways. Each one of us were treated by our environment differently. So as we grow up, we develop our own perspectives. These are called the thinking maps, the way you process the events in your life, the way you look at things, the perspectives you have about your environment. So we are different in all of these. That is why for the same event, each one of you is processing the event differently or appraising the event differently. All right. And because of the difference in your processing, each one of you is coming out with a different emotion. Because I am like this, or because I see that event like this, I would feel afraid. Because I'm afraid, I would run. Because I'm a martial art expert, I will feel composed and I will try to outsmart him. So these are the different ways in which each one of you might be looking at this event, might be processing that event. And hence, each one of you gave me different feelings. And you also told me that you will be doing different things, right? And before I show you the process of emotion generation, let's talk about the outcomes. You gave me so many responses in the chat window about doings, right? What happens if you shout? What happens if you run away? What happens if you beg him for mercy? Which would be, I know things can take a turn anyway, but then there is a smart way out of this, isn't it? Do we all agree on that? Out of all these things, there would be one way out, right? If you run or if you try to shout, he might panic and pull the trigger. If you try to buy some time, talk to him, pacify him, you might have some more time before you become history or geography. So each one of these behaviors would have an outcome, a different outcome, of course. Do we all agree on this? Can I have a few responses? My summary is each one of you processed the event differently. Hence, you felt different emotions. Because of your different emotions, you said you would be doing different things. And each one of those things that you told you would be doing has an outcome. Do we agree on this flow? Can I have a few responses? In the chat window, please. Yes. Yes. Okay. So try to judge him. Yes. Okay. So there are a few yes in the chat window. Okay. True. Okay. Absolutely. Nusrat Khan. Thank you, ma'am. So we all agree with this flow, right? And thus I introduce emotions also, right? Every time when you feel an intense emotion, it's always connected with your physiology. Your heart will pound, you will have a sweating palm, Okay, you'll have a flushed face. When you're angry, your neck portion gets heated up. You'll become red like a lobster here, right? Your temples will pound. When you're stressed, you will sweat. When you have an important presentation and you're nervous, your palms would be sweating. So emotions have these three components. There is a physiological component, a psychological feeling which you gave me when I gave you the gunman scenario. You told me you're afraid, you're tense, you're scared, you're shocked. So there is a psychological state. And then there is also an expressive behavior. Some of you would be running, some of you would be shouting, some of you might even faint looking at the gunman. So there is also a manifestation of that psychological state, right? So these are the three components with which emotions are made of, and they are generated like this. There is an event. Each one of you interpret the event using your thinking maps. And then based on your interpretations, you experience a certain emotion. And depending on the emotion, you behave in a certain manner. And each of the behavior has a different result. So this is the process from event to the result. Now, I would like to bring the connection between emotions and intelligence. As human beings, we have the highly evolved cortex. It is called the higher order. We have, or we possess the higher order thinking skills. So we have a rational mind and an emotional mind. So the interaction between this rational mind and the emotional mind is emotional intelligence. I will give you a small example. From this process, I would like to stress a point that it's not the event that creates the emotion in you. It is the way you look at the event or interpret the event that causes the emotion in you. This is the crux of emotional intelligence. It's not the event that causes the emotion in you. It is your map, or it's your way of interpreting the event that causes the emotion in you. So, by altering the thinking maps, you can also alter the emotion that you're going to experience. I will give you a small example. This example, every day I greet my colleague. There is a colleague whom I greet every day. Every day he returns my greetings with a smile, a bright smile. One day there are many students around me. I am at the reception of the institute. This colleague walks in. I wish him as always, but then he has a smirk on his face. He turns his face away from me and walks away. I feel insulted because there are so many students around me. They watched what happened and they also saw the manner in which he returned my greetings. Now here I have two options. I can feel insulted if my map is, how dare he does this in front of my students? This is a great insult. It's kind of, I'm hurt. It's an insult. This could be your thinking map, or your thinking map could be, poor thing, I don't know. Every day he returns my greetings with a smile. Might be he has a bad day or he had a bad day today. I should talk to him. He might need some help. So if this is my thinking map, then obviously my emotion would be different. So this is an example for the power of your rational mind, using which you can alter your thinking maps in order to arrive at a desirable emotion. This is one arrow mark. The second arrow mark, you're feeling insulted that this guy did not return your greetings. You can immediately counter him and ask, or you can modulate your emotion. You can take a few deep breaths, control your anger or this feeling of insult. And then after a while, when you gain the balance, you can also go and talk to him. This is one way. Another example, in the classroom, a student is constantly irritating you. You're so angry, your temples are pounding. You can manifest your anger right away, or using your rational mind, you can alter or bring down the intensity of anger, thinking about the consequences, right? So these two are the arrow marks, which are examples. I've also given you some examples which show that using your rational mind, you can manage your emotions for better outcomes, right? So this ability is inside all of us. This is both a natural and a nurtured ability, and this is called emotional intelligence. Now, before taking you to the definition of emotional intelligence, I would like all of you to look at this picture. Assume this is your boss or your HOD or director or dean, and then you have an important conference coming up. You want her quality time to discuss a very nagging issue about the conference. There is a nagging issue about the conference or whatever coming up, and you need your boss quality time to discuss that issue. You walk into her office and you find her like this. Now, may I ask you, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? You're seeing your boss. Okay, you're seeing that she's engaged, she's stressed. Why do you say she's stressed, Dr. Rani? And why do you say she's engaged, Pooja? You can also unmute and speak if you want. Due to the frown on her face, exactly. So you look at the frown on her face, okay? Anyone else, your observations? Okay, she's multitasking.
Yes, I was saying she's multitasking, or maybe she's she's noting down something from her computer.
Okay, okay, Dr. Renu, what do you say about her mood?
I think she's normal.
Normal, okay.
Engaged.
Engaged and normal. Okay. Anyone who differs with Dr. Renu? Of course, you would differ because we are all different.
I feel that I'm Dr. Kirti.
Surprised. Yes, Dr. Kirti, please go ahead.
Yeah, I am thinking that she is trying to understand something from what either she is listening or she is seeing.
Okay.
Because the expression on her face on between the eyebrows shows that she is trying to understand something very seriously, a particular issue. And maybe either she is not understanding at first tense, or whatever she is understood, she might be want to confirm that again, that whatever understanding she has.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kirti. So you look at the picture, your eyes, okay, where all our five senses, your eyes, ears, nose, touch, etc., they give you information about your environment. Using these five senses, you make sense out of what's happening. And with this person, you see that frown on her face and all that, and you judge that she's either worried or stressed, or she's occupied, engaged. So you come to a conclusion. There is an appraisal part. You study the environment, you read the atmosphere. You first use your perception skills and you read the atmosphere wherein you appraise the situation. And would you walk in and start that important conversation right away? Or can I please have, yeah.
We'll give her some time as she seems overly occupied and she's trying to decode the situation. So we'll definitely walk away and come back later.
Exactly, Pooja. So what are you doing here? You are perceiving, you're appraising the situation, and you're deciding this is not the right time to walk into her cabin to talk about that important issue. And so you decide to give her some time and you walk back. So putting all these three skills together, you're using your rational mind, okay? You're using your rational mind, and then making a decision or taking a decision, and you're deciding not to speak to her at this moment. So with these three skills, the definition of emotional intelligence is, it is the ability of individuals to perceive.
Hello. Huh?
Mr. or Mrs. Mr. Mihir, can you please mute? Okay. So emotional intelligence is the ability of individuals to perceive various. May I please request the organizers to do the needful?
हाँ, जब जता है मैंने रिमाइंडर कर दिया हम कदाच भूला ही हुए में थे हाँ
Okay. We had the chance to hear Mr. Mihir's conversation. Okay. So EI is the ability of individuals to perceive various stimuli associated with their self and their environment, apprise and regulate their responses, resulting in improved intra and interpersonal outcomes. So as I said, there are many schools of thoughts with respect to EI. Based on my PhD, based on my experience with EI, I have stuck to this definition, and I believe that EI is an ability which can be developed by systematic training programs. So all my training programs are based on this definition, and I have designed programs to improve the perception ability and your appraisal skills and your regulation skills. That's how in all you increase or develop or nurture your emotional intelligence. Now I'll stop here. The constituents obviously are perception, appraisal and regulation. So let's not go into the constituents, but then I right away go into the implications. Why is this skill required? How can it be applied? Right? Mr. Mihir, can I please request you to mute your audio? So I would like to focus much on regulation because this is more important. Gross defines regulation as a process by which individuals influence what emotions they have, when they have them, and how they experience and express them. So please understand, all of you have inbuilt programming for this. You have this ability. You have this ability to regulate or influence what emotions you have, when you have, and how you experience and express them. So based on this definition, I would like to present to you the implications of emotional intelligence. I'm again repeating, it's only a tip of the iceberg view. I will stop for a while here to check with you if you got the definition right and if you are having a fair idea of the concept now. Can I please have a feedback? Is the concept clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you believe this can be used in your day-to-day life?
Yes, surely. Because most of the time leaders are encountered with such kind of situation, and many times we need what you said, that what we perceive sometimes need some kind of appraisal to pause and understand the situation and then response. Most of the time we see that due to lack of emotional intelligence or smart emotional intelligence, people generally react rather than respond.
Yes. So the crux here is to respond, not react, right? Thank you, ma'am. That was beautifully summed up. Okay. So implications of EI. With respect, again, it's only a tip of the iceberg view. Even if you're sitting home doing nothing, you need emotional intelligence, right? So the varied implications of emotional intelligence, again, I will base this on the process of emotion generation. So with respect to the events happening in your life, you can do only two things. I also reiterated at the crux of emotional intelligence. It is not the event that causes the emotion in you, but it's the way you look at the event that causes the emotion in you. So with respect to the events happening in your life, you can do only two things. Either change the event or change your reaction to the event. So these two are the implications. You can, using your rational mind, Mr. Mihir, can I please request you to mute, or can I please request the organizers to do the needful?
Yes, ma'am. We are checking, ma'am. We are checking. Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Mihir. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jagan. So these two are possible. Change the event or change your reaction to the event. All right. So as you said, as we discussed, the process starts with the event. Then you have your thinking map. Then you have your emotion. And as you feel an emotion, you manifest that emotion in the form of behavior. And based on your behaviors, you get the result. So in the same lines, I would like to present to you the implications. The first one is the event itself. What can you do with the event itself? Can you avoid certain stressful events in your life? Can you avoid certain stressful places? Can you avoid certain stressful people or topics? It is very much within you. The belief that you are in control of your environment is the basis for the application of emotional intelligence. This picture shows a crowded shopping place. I will be quoting.
हेलो हाँ एक मिनट बोलिए सर कैपिटल हाँ 413 400 ये सब कहीं चले सर
Mr.
सबका
Mihir?
एक ही होगा
Jagan,
Mihir?
possible to mute because I don't
Okay.
have the right.
That's what I'm checking, sir. I'm not able to see the option over here. I'm checking, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mihir?
Otherwise, what you can do is that you can ask him to leave.
Sure, sir. Sure.
चालू करके एक साथ 5 ही खुलेंगे ऐसा कुछ है क्या वो तो सर डिटेल में देखना पड़ेगा पिछली बार भी ऐसा ही हो रहा था
Mr.
ऐसा तो नहीं है
I think
मतलब वो मुझे पूरा अभी खोलना पड़ेगा
the host will have the power to mute this participant.
टाइम लगेगा बस
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. We are.
Perfectly understood, Jagan. No issues at all. No issues at all. Happens. So, situation selection, we were talking about avoiding certain places. I will be quoting my example so that you will be able to corroborate. I don't like shopping in crowded places. I feel stressed. So what do? I pick a time when the shop is not crowded, or I avoid such places and go to a place where I can shop at ease, right? And then I get very emotional when I see certain posts on Facebook. So I have gone into my personal settings in Facebook and I've said I do not want to be shown, I don't want to see all these emotional and gross pictures and posts. So Facebook itself will stop all those posts on my timeline so I will not be able to see them. So these are some examples. You can select situations, right? You can select situations so that you will have favorable emotions. But then there is a caution here. You cannot avoid all the stressors in your life, right? So there is also a caution. Whatever you can do, wherever you think you are unnecessarily getting stressed, avoid such people, places, and topics. So this requires a lot of self-awareness also. You should understand what are my triggers, what do I like, what makes me sad, what makes me happy, what makes me stressed, angry. So this requires some self-awareness also. That's an ocean in itself.
Second, it seems there is a network connectivity from Deepa ma'am's side. You can see. Yeah.
Sir, just now I spoke to her, sir. She'll be back in a minute, sir.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am. We can able to see you, ma'am.
So we were speaking about avoiding certain people, places, and topics. So you have the control of avoiding certain stressful things. So this is called situation selection. And then you can also, I told you, you cannot avoid all the stressors, but then you can modify certain events. For example, there is a friend of yours who is making you the center of his jokes or focus of his jokes whenever there is a get together. First time you enjoy, second time okay for you, but third time you are getting irritated. So you can tell that friend, rather than keeping those feelings bottled up, you can modify the situation by saying, hey, I enjoy your sense of humor, but then can you not make me the focus of your jokes or the center of your jokes all the while? So this is one way of altering the situation. Another example is, there is a person whom you have to meet. You have to definitely meet that person, but because of your previous association person in a previous job, you don't like that person, you hate that person, but your present job demands that you have to meet him. So rather than getting frustrated, you cannot avoid meeting him. You can take a friend or somebody else with you so that you feel comfortable meeting that person. So these are all some crude examples of how you can modify certain situations so that you can arrive at favorable emotion. So with respect to the event, you can either select the situation, avoid certain situations, places, and topics, or you can modify the situations. And one more thing here is, please do not keep your feelings bottled up. They are like ticking time bombs. They can explode. You might snap anytime. So always express your feelings in the right manner. And emotional intelligence is very much about expressing. And it is always about expressing your feelings in the right manner, to the right person, at the right time, for the right intentions, right? So these two are with respect to events. Now moving on to maps. Here, you can choose, you have the power to choose where you deploy your attention, right? For example, my daughter is a dentist. She's a practicing dentist. And then when she's in the pedo department, pedodontics, where children used to come for dental treatments, the child, as soon as the child sees the dental chair and the equipments around, it becomes paranoid and starts crying. So they have distraction tools there. In the pedo department, each dental chair has different toys of different types. So first they engage the child with the toys, they deploy the child's attention purposefully on something else, and then only they start the treatment. So this is one example to show that your attention can be consciously deployed on favorable stimuli so that you alter the emotion that you're getting, right? For example, there is a presentation, a very important presentation. You're feeling nervous, but then you want to nail that presentation and this nervousness is coming in the way. You can choose to use your sensory tools like your breathing, your sight. You can close your eyes and visualize the presentation slowly and think of what all you will be saying in the presentation, and you can imagine or visualize that you are answering the questions properly. These are all examples of how you visualize something positively. You deploy your attention on positive stimuli so that you go ahead and do the presentation. This can stress management also. QA tools are nothing but quick action tools like your 2 minutes Maggi noodles, which you can use quickly to change the state of your mind from an unfavorable state to a favorable state. If you're feeling stressed, if I am feeling stressed, I listen to Sri Kanda Guru Kavasam. It is a Kavasam on Lord Muruga. I listen to this for 30 minutes, and after that, I feel much better. I feel rejuvenated. So this is an example of using my hearing, my sensory inputs to change my state of mind. So you deploy your attention. You have this capacity to deploy your attention on favorable stimuli so that you have a favorable state of mind. So this is again your self-awareness. Why am I feeling like this? What can I do to change this state of mind? So using attention deployment also, you can change your emotions. And cognitive change is the next one. The way you change the way you look at the events. You look at people and events. Mostly if you see, when you meet people for the first time, you form an impression about them, right? Always we do that. Now let me just, for a small break or for a small change so that I'm not monotonous, can I ask you, most of you, all of you saw me the first slide when I started, or when Subhashri was introducing me, you saw me. You might have formed an impression, right? After that, when my profile was read, your impression might have changed. And after listening to me for this 40 minutes, how many of you feel that your perception of, how many of you feel that it has not changed? Can I please have a few responses? Either voice or text. Not changed, okay. Anyone else? Okay. See, have you all had this experience of judging a person wrongly, and then when you get close to that person, you change your thoughts about that person? Do we all have this experience? Yes? Okay. So, lot of times, yes, of course. So, this ability is also within us. The way you can change, you have the power to change the way you look at people and events. I gave you an example from my experience. Like I said, when I greeted my colleague, often he greets me with a smile. One fine day, he didn't do that. I felt insulted, but I changed the way I looked at the event. I thought, poor thing, maybe he has a bad day. I should check with him. And actually, if you ask me, to be honest, I really checked with him. This happened in my real life. I went and asked my colleague, Professor, is everything fine with you? If you're feeling overwhelmed, I'm just a call away. I would be happy to help. So here, not only did I change my thought process about his activity or behavior, but I also went a step forward to find out from him why he behaved that. So this changes your emotion altogether, and you can also improve. You come across as a very empathetic person, and you can always maintain or sustain good relationships. I will also like to touch on self-defense. Please understand that your mind and body work together. If you're feeling sick, if you're sick, your mind will not work properly. If you're mentally disturbed, there are some chats about audio issues. Okay. Okay. Somebody is responding. Right. Okay. So now self-defeating thoughts. I was talking to you about how your mind and body work together. When you're disturbed in mind, if you're stressed, it has significant implications on your body. When you're chronically stressed, your immune system goes down. You are at a high risk of heart attack or blood pressure or diabetes, right? So all these show that your mind and body work together. So if you have self-defeating thoughts, as all of you are listening to me, or as all of you are about to start an important work, you will have your own inner voices. The voices would be like, you're going to nail this presentation, or it could be like, you're going to fumble in the presentation, you're going to paint a sorry picture. Now, this one is called a self-defeating thought. The moment you have this inner voice which tells you that you're going to fumble in the presentation, mind you, you're bound to fumble. So your inner voices should always work for you and not against you, right? So this cognitive change is about exercising your power to change the way you look at people, and by doing this distraction, deploying your attention somewhere, diverting your attention, you can arrive at favorable emotion. So this is what I was trying to drive home. This is also an interesting change that I would like all of you to bring. Normally, when something challenging and stressful happens, we have this tendency to ask, why me? Why is this happening to me? Rather, try asking, what is this trying to teach me? The moment you ask, what is this trying to teach me? Everything shifts. So this cognitive change is what I'm asking all of you to bring in your lives, so that you always have a favorable emotion. Moving on, emotions. So we talked about events, we talked about maps. Now moving on to emotions, as I said, self-awareness is an ocean. So it is very, very important for all of you to be aware of yourself. What are your strengths, weaknesses? What are the opportunities in your life? What are your threats? I'm talking about your emotional ecosystem, right? What do you have there? What is your SWOT in your emotional ecosystem? And then what do you know about yourself? Do you know your triggers? Are you predictable? Does your family member knows that if you're sitting like this, you're angry? If you're walking, you're pacing back and forth, you're stressful. So are you aware of your triggers? Are you aware of things that make you happy, sad, angry? Are you aware of your life purpose? Are you aware of things that are close to your heart? So there are so many questions that I can ask you pertaining to self-awareness. So you have to be aware of yourself. That's a different topic. So I would like to just mention that being aware of yourself is very, very important if you're going to exercise the emotional intelligence skills. And understanding others is also another important thing. Empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. All of us are different. We saw I threw the same situation to all of you, but then each one of you came out with a different feeling word, and each one of you were also different about what you were going to do in that situation. So try to understand, or you need to understand, that the others are different. They have their own perspectives, and it is okay to be different. We need to accept and respect these differences. Always try to empathize with your students, with your spouse, with your children, with the other stakeholders of your environment. So please make sure that every time somebody differs from you, understand that they have every right to bring their perspectives to the table. Understand where they are coming from. This is also an implication with respect to emotions. And then I'm going to introduce an interesting term called modus operandi. Again, I'm connecting this to self-awareness. Can I ask you, a few of you, what will you do when you're happy? What do you normally do when you're happy? Or let me put it this way, what do you normally do when you're angry? What do you do when you're angry? Yeah, how, Pooja? How do we react? What do you physically, how do you manifest your anger? That's my question. How do you manifest anger? Shout, exactly. You shout, okay? Shout at people. Okay, anyone else? You can manifest your anger in any number of ways. Okay, shout with rage. So now this is called modus operandi, the method or the way in which you manifest your emotions. Some people, they will keep quiet, exactly, Ms. Nasrat, yes, being silent and calm. Some people will be calm. Some people will not even show their anger to you, but they will bite behind your back. They will stab you behind your back. You will be caught unawares. That is also a manifestation of anger. Yes, eat more. Binge eating is also a manifestation of anger. It is also a manifestation of stress. And sleeping more or sleeping less, these are all manifestations. They're called the modus operandi. You should know your modus operandi. Not only that, you should also know the modus operandi of others, at least your colleagues, your relatives, your family. That is when you have all the information to respond to a situation and not react to a situation. I will give you an example. Why should you be knowing the modus operandi of others? My secretary, I know very well that my secretary will freak out or will snap if I point out her mistakes in front of others. So she freaks out, she becomes emotional. So when somebody points her mistake out in front of others, she freaks out or she becomes emotional. So that is the modus operandi of my secretary. I know this very well. One fine day, she commits a big mistake and I have this urge to shout at her, yell at her. But then, knowing her modus operandi and assuming or presuming the outcome, if I shout, this will happen, what do? I moderate or regulate my behavior. I call her and tell her, I have to speak to you regarding this. Can you please come away? So I'll take her away and then I'll point out her mistake, or I'll wait for a while and then point out mistake in private, not in front of others. This is again an example, a very simple example, which could tell you or which will tell you the importance of knowing the modus operandi or method of operation of others. So modus operandi is nothing but the manifestation, the way in which people manifest their emotions. By understanding this MO of yours and others, you will be in a better position to strategize your responses. You will be responding rather than reacting. So this is also, regulation is also very, very important. So whenever I have some important things to discuss with my husband, he has his own stress levels. So I look at his body language. I try to read the atmosphere. I know his modus operandi better. If he's sitting like this, he's probably stressed. If he's sitting like this, he's probably angry. So this is not the right time for me to start this sensitive conversation. So now you will be able to appreciate the value of knowing your modus operandi and also knowing his modus operandi, right? So this is how you regulate your behavior also. Connecting the dots, I will give you a small story, a very small anecdote. A father is taking his child, this is a very small story. A father is taking his child for the first haircut, right? So I want a few responses. So what? What are the challenges here? Your child, first haircut for your child. What are the challenges here? The wife is not around, the father is alone, and he has to manage the entire show. What would be the challenges? The child will be scared, okay? Child's resistance. So the wife is not around, you have to manage. making the child sit in one place, pacifying, constant mobility of the child. So it's going to be a tough job. So we all understand. So this dad, he has to manage a lot with the child, exactly. So what does this father do? He looks for shops, salons around his house, and finds that one salon has all cartoon pictures, toys, things like that. So he decides this would be the right place for him to take his child for a haircut because that place is kid friendly. So he goes into that salon and sits there, waits with his child, looks at 3 or 4 people working there, and the person who is free has a tough beard and he's looking rugged and very fearsome. It's a boy. Let's assume it's a boy. So somebody's asking, it's a girl or a boy? It's a boy, let's assume. So the child is taken there to a kid-friendly salon. I have described what a kid-friendly salon is. And in that salon, there are 3 people who are attending to customers. The person who is free is looking very fearful for the child. So when that person comes and asks the father, can I attend to your child? The father says, no, I wait for that person to finish. That person is very naive and looking very calm, very friendly. So the father says, I will do my child's haircut. If you don't mind, can I please wait for that person to attend to my child? So this is the second step. So that friendly person comes, starts the haircut. A few minutes down the road, the child is moving like a worm, squiggling, starts squiggling. And then the father says, hey, your birthday is coming next week. What do you want to do? Do you want to invite your friends? What cake do you want? What theme do you want? What are the return? So this father is trying to talk the child out of the haircut. And then the discussion is going on about the child's birthday, and the child is okay for a while. And now the final touch, the electric shaver or trimmer is taken, it's switched on, it's giving that whir sound. The child starts kind of becoming very, very uncomfortable. Teardrops slightly are appearing. So the father says, look at the sound of the machine. Doesn't it sound like our cat, Novi? It is like the purr of our cat, Novi. Don't you see that? So the father is trying to relate the sound of that machine with the pet cat sound. And when the machine is just kept on the skin, the child starts crying. And the father says, stop crying. Big boys like you don't cry. Right? So that's what the father does. So this is a very small anecdote which I'm just shared with you. And the same is appearing here. So can we please relate these to the techniques that we discussed before? We discussed about situation selection, situation modification, cognitive change, attention deployment, cognitive change, and then we also talked about behavior modification or regulating behavior. So can you identify? I have given that in colors. I'm assuming you're able to see the colors here. Scouts few places is given in a color and decides on a kid-friendly shop. What is this? What does this denote? Which technique does this denote? From out of the 5 that we discussed before: situation selection, modification, attention deployment, cognitive change, and then regulation. Can a few of you respond? The first one, scouting a few places to decide on a kid-friendly shop. What is that an example for? Avoids the first barber who had a terrifying look and finds a friendly one. Yes, first one is situation selection. Second one, avoids the terrifying person and picks the friendly one. So once in that situation, he modifies the situation. What is this one? Father asks child about birthday party. So it is deploying the attention of the child somewhere else so that he has a favorable state of mind. And then cognitive change, asking the child to look at that machine, relating that machine to his pet cat. And finally, when the child cries, the father says, big kid should not cry. He's trying to regulate the behavior. So these are the 5 techniques which fall very much in line with the process of emotion generation, wherein you can modify the event itself or avoid some events itself. And then you can also choose to deploy your attention consciously. You can also change the way you look at things. And finally, if all this is not possible, you can always modulate your response. So this is how I connect the dots for the implications of emotional intelligence, or how can you apply emotional intelligence. You have the power right from the event to the response because of your rational mind, because of your highly evolved cortex. All of you have this ability or control over the events, maps, emotions, and your behaviors. So when you're conscious about these things and when you start using these things in your life, so this is how I've connected situation selection and situation modification with respect to the event, attention deployment and cognitive change with respect to the maps and the emotions you feel, and response modulation with respect to modifying your behavior for better outcomes. So this is how you can use these interactions, the interaction between your rational mind and your emotional mind. And once you start using these skills, you can see a sea of change in your personal and professional life. So to conclude, it is not the event that causes the emotion in you. It is the way you look at the events that cause the emotion in you. This is the crux of emotional intelligence. I think I have raised the curtain. And as a parting note, I would like to also stress that acquiring EI is a continuum and it's not a destination. It should be a continuous process. How do you make it a continuous process? By observing yourself and reflecting on your behaviors. So every day, I would suggest that all of you devote some time to reflect on your behaviors. How many people smiled because of me? How many people frowned because of me today? How many people's life did I touch? How many, or did I feel grateful to someone today? Did I express my gratitude today? This is a kind of reflection in which you can reflect on your behaviors every day, see the outcomes, and try to learn from your own experience and keep on changing. That's why I say I can only be a facilitator. Even if I deliver an intense training program on emotional intelligence, I can only be a facilitator. The amount you acquire and use, apply, and learn is with you. So acquiring EI is a continuum and it's not a destination. So I thank the organizers for this excellent opportunity of being with this august audience. As I said, I have also written a book. If you're really interested about this concept, this book is available on Amazon as an ebook also. It's also available in the Notion Press website. You can refer to that book. I would love to have your questions through email also, even after the session. Many thanks to Professor Thamari Chelvan and Mr. Jagan for this wonderful opportunity. I open the floor now for questions and feedback.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Dr. Kirti. I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
want to know that how you can correlate the emotional stability with the behavior of a leader.
Emotional stability with the behavior. A leader who is very high in emotional intelligence will always manifest behaviors that will give him better outcomes. He will be in a position to understand the impact of his behaviors on others. So always he would respond and not react. So there is a lot of relationship between the stability of a leader and his leadership style and the outcomes he produces as a leader.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. And if you see an additional information, the World Economic Forum has released a Jobs 2020 report in which it has brought out emotional intelligence as a trending skill across the world. Organizations have started looking for the skill, and they have started using emotional intelligence in their recruitment process. They have also started using, or they have also started designing and implementing training programs on EI. And researchers feel that 80% of a person's success can be attributed to EQ, though IQ is necessary depending on the jobs and the profiles. EQ is something which differentiates a successful person.
Yeah, one of my students has done a PhD on EI, and where the results, what we got it shows that many times the element of self-awareness on the Daniel Goleman book, whatever the quadrants are given, on the basis of that self-awareness, things are missing. So how do you connect it that the older leaders who are more successful has a more tolerance level and the emotional stability than the new leaders? You can compare that way?
No, ma'am. It's not about older or younger leaders. It is about their level of self-awareness. See, if I am self-aware and if I am aware of my actions, manifestations of emotions on others, definitely I will have more emotional intelligence. Though they say that emotional intelligence increases with age, I do not see a significant and sustained relationship like that. Some say it is a U relationship. As you become older, your EI inverted U, they say. But then what I feel is that if you are aware, if you are more self-aware, if you are always striving towards self-awareness, definitely you will possess high emotional intelligence. You will respond rather than react, and you will become an emotionally intelligent person. So it is not about young people or old people, but then self-awareness is the foundation.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, ma'am. So I see a few questions also in the chat. Let me look at them. Okay. Mr. Sandeep, emotions should never be controlled. You should observe the emotions of others to understand them better. With respect to your emotions, you should always strive to express your emotions. Emotional regulation is never about suppression or control of emotions. It's always about expressing your emotions in the right manner to the right person at the right time for the right outcomes. So it is never about suppression. Actually, medical research says that if you suppress your anger, you triple the risk of your heart attack. So please understand, EI is not about controlling. It is always manifestation, but you should know when, how, where, to whom, and for what intentions. Sashi Kiran, definitely I will share my PPT. It is with the organizers. I request them to share with the participants. I thank you all for your motivating compliments. I might not read each one of your names, but my gratitude to all of you for your motivating comments. Self-awareness. Does self-awareness help in balancing emotions? Definitely. It is the foundation for emotional intelligence. Definitely. So, example is, you know your triggers. You know that this situation could rub you on the wrong side. So this awareness will help you in balancing and manifesting your emotions properly. So there is a question, we don't want the westbound. See, sometimes we might be. Thank you. Sometimes we are emotionally hijacked. I did not touch upon emotional hijacks, but then I did refer to them as triggers. So each one of us have many triggers in many forms that could bring the wrong side of us or bring the worst side of us. So again, I'm going back to self-awareness. If you're self-aware, you will know these are my triggers. These are the events or stimuli that could bring my worst side out. You will try to avoid or adapt. So that's why I'm saying self-awareness is the cornerstone of emotions or emotional intelligence. Dr. Ashu Mittal, yes, the strategy is to observe. Use your sensory inputs to the full potential. When you observe others, you can easily understand them. What are they manifesting? In which situation are they behaving in which manner? So by observation, definitely you can understand others' emotions. So this is a very detailed workshop on emotional intelligence. So I cannot crush all of them in that, but then definitely there are strategies to understand others' emotions, and the key is to observe.
Ma'am, thank you very much. It's almost 3:40, and
thank you.
It is a more thoughtful and insightful presentation. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time and valuable presentation. And we will meet once again in some other forum, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I think the network has gone for her. And one simple request to all the participants: please mute and ensure that you are listening, because as I already mentioned, as per the ATAL guidelines, you should have 80% of attendance, as well as you are expected to score minimum 60% of the test. Generally, will be given certificates. So I request you to please observe, listen, and listen whatever is given over there. We'll also share our PPT, the whole presentation, through YouTube also. Thank you. And if you have got any questions, if you have got 1 minute, if you have got any queries or anything, and you have got a WhatsApp group, you can interact through the WhatsApp group, so that Jagan and other people will be able to provide a better amount of information to you. Yes, ma'am. Now, can I take your question, ma'am?
Yeah, the thing is, I want to know whether we have to fill some feedback form today.
Not today, and we'll provide a feedback form, and that will be through the ATAL portal. We are exploring that, and we will let you know by tomorrow. Otherwise, we will provide all the information through the WhatsApp.
Thank you.
No, sir. I think ATAL is allow you to upload the attendance after the completion of program. So every day probably we may not able to see our attendance because we have attended few. So at the end of the program, you have to give the consolidated attendance of the participants on the ATAL.
Ma'am, it's not about attendance, it's about the feedback form.
Feedback form.
No, that also at the end of the program. That is also end of the program.
No, that I know, ma'am, but whether we need to contact from the Google form or through the portal, because we got a guideline, it has to be through the portal. But anyway,
yeah, it is through portal only. It is through portal only.
Fine.
Okay,
Thank you for the information.
Whatever the PPTs you need to share, I think that you cannot share through ATAL. You have to either send the participant to WhatsApp or through the mail only.
But as per the guidelines that they have given, we are expected to upload whatever is there in the YouTube and give a link through the ATAL portal, and that is what I have received from the ATAL guidelines.
We have received all the PPTs for the previous through mail only, sir.
No, that's fine. Okay, we don't have any inhibition, but we need to go through the protocol. So you'll be getting the PPT.
Okay. Because it is easy for us to attend the test also.
Fine.
Yeah, okay. Professor, I lost connection in between. I have rejoined.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think you have got one more work to do.
Yeah.
For your, so you already postponed because of us, and thank you for your adjustment and nice gesture.
So pleasure was mine, sir. I should thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. And I wish all the participants a wonderful learning experience, and stay safe. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, madam. Thanks a lot, madam.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jagan, you share all those information through WhatsApp because couple of questions are coming regarding YouTube and couple of other things. So we'll try
Okay.
to provide everything through the even WhatsApp PPT. You can share it. Okay, so get
Okay,
them download it. Okay, so another thing
Okay,
is that give the link even through the WhatsApp, and but don't forget to upload it in the YouTube so that we need to
Okay,
upload
sir.
it in the Atal portal. Thank you
Sure,
all,
sir.
and thank you very much. Please join with us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jagan. Thank you, Jagan,
Thank
for
you.
your help.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.